You are being watched. You don't know it yet. You're moving through tall grass, scanning the horizon, listening for anything that sounds wrong. Your heart rate is already elevated. It has been elevated for most of your life. Not because something is chasing you right now, but because something always could be. For roughly 2 million years, this was not anxiety. This was survival intelligence. The story you were probably told goes something like this. Early humans were brave hunters, apex predators who stood at the top of the food chain and conquered the wilderness. It's a satisfying story. It makes us feel powerful. But the bones don't agree. The bones tell a different story entirely. In 1981, a paleoanthropologist named C.K. Brain published a landmark study based on decades of excavation at Swartkrans cave in South Africa. What he found changed the way scientists understood early human history. The cave was full of hominin bones, the remains of our ancient relatives, and many of those bones had puncture marks, claw gouges, and bite patterns pressed into them. Brain concluded that early hominins were not just hunting in this landscape. They were being hunted. The predators that left those marks were dragging your ancestors' bodies into caves the same way a leopard drags a kill into a tree, to eat them in private, away from scavengers. You were the prey. In 2005, biological anthropologists Donna Hart and Robert Sussman published a book called Man the Hunted, which assembled the full weight of fossil, archaeological, and behavioral evidence for this view. Their argument was blunt. The dominant model of human evolution had it backwards. Early humans did not evolve as fearless hunters shaping the world around them. They evolved as small, vulnerable, highly social primates under constant predation pressure. Your big brain, your social bonds, your language, your ability to read subtle threats in a face or a shadow. These didn't develop so you could hunt more efficiently. They developed because you were being eaten. So what exactly was eating you? Let's reconstruct the landscape your ancestors lived in roughly 2 million years ago. You are somewhere in Eastern or Southern Africa. You are small, about the size of a modern 12-year-old. You have no fire yet. No metal. No walls. The grass around you is tall enough to hide a large cat. The trees are sparse but present. It is almost dusk. The first threat you need to understand is Dinofelis. Dinofelis was a large predatory cat, not quite a saber-tooth in the dramatic Hollywood sense, but close enough to matter. Paleontologist Alan Turner, in his 1997 study of big cats and their fossil relatives, documented that Dinofelis coexisted with early hominins across Africa for hundreds of thousands of years. It was roughly the size of a modern leopard. It was built for ambush, and the fossil record places it consistently in the same habitats as your ancestors, hunting the same prey. Turner and other researchers found evidence suggesting Dinofelis may have been a specialist, a cat that had partially adapted to hunting hominins specifically. Whether or not that interpretation holds, the overlap is undeniable. Your ancestors and Dinofelis shared the same valleys, the same water sources, and the same nights. And then there was the eagle. In 1995, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger and anatomist Ron Clark published a detailed analysis of the Taung child, one of the most famous fossil skulls in human history, a young Australopithecus africanus discovered in South Africa. What Berger and Clark found on the inside of the eye sockets were marks. Specific pattern marks. The kind left by the talons of a large bird of prey, a crowned eagle or something very similar, carrying a small primate up into a tree to eat it. The Taung child, long assumed to have died of natural causes or predator attack at ground level, had almost certainly been killed from above. A bird had reached down, grabbed a child, and taken it. You were not just afraid of what was in the grass. You were afraid of the sky. Leopards deserve their own chapter in this story. Researcher Travis Rain Pickering, in his 2013 review of aggression and predation in human evolution, noted that leopard predation is particularly difficult to defend against because of its silence and its patience. A leopard does not chase. It waits. It follows. It studies a pattern of movement over days or weeks and identifies the weakest individual. The one who strays, the one who sleeps alone, the one who lingers. Leopard attack sites associated with early hominin remains are found across the African fossil record. There is reason to believe that for much of early human prehistory, sleeping was one of the most dangerous things you could do. This is why your ancestors slept in trees. Not as a lifestyle preference. As a survival strategy. Climbing into branches at night put a vertical obstacle between a sleeping body and the things that hunted in the dark. It was uncomfortable. It was cold. Falling was a real risk. But falling out of a tree was survivable. Being pulled apart by a cave hyena was not. And the cave hyena was very real. As your ancestors expanded out of Africa into Eurasia, a process documented in part by paleoanthropologist Susan Anton's research on Homo erectus migration, they walked into a new set of predators they had no evolutionary memory of. Cave lions. Cave hyenas larger than any modern spotted hyena. Short-faced bears. These were not small threats. A cave lion was roughly 20% larger than the largest lions alive today. A cave hyena had bone-crushing jaws powerful enough to splinter the femur of a woolly mammoth. Your ancestors, arriving in Europe and Asia for the first time, were entering ecosystems that had evolved apex predators without any adaptation to fear humans at all. You were new. You were small. And you smelled like food. David Quammen, in his 2003 work Monster of God, synthesized historical and archaeological records of man-eating predators across multiple species and continents. One of his central findings is that the relationship between large predators and humans is not ancient history. In ecosystems where apex predators still exist in significant numbers, human predation is a documented, ongoing phenomenon. Lions in Tanzania, crocodiles across sub-Saharan Africa, tigers in the Sundarbans. The fear your body registers when you hear a deep sound in the dark, when you feel watched from behind, when something moves in your peripheral vision. That fear is not irrational. It was earned over millions of years at enormous cost. There is one predator that deserves special attention, and it is the one most people overlook entirely. Snakes. Evolutionary biologist Lynn Isbell published a striking hypothesis in 2006 arguing that the primate brain's extraordinary capacity for rapid threat detection, the neural wiring that lets you spot a dangerous shape before your conscious mind has processed what it saw, evolved specifically in response to snake predation pressure. Snakes were a constant, ancient, and invisible threat. They were in the grass, in the trees, under rocks, and water. They struck without warning. And over millions of years, the primate lineage developed something remarkable in response. A dedicated visual detection system for detecting the specific pattern of a coiled, camouflaged snake faster than any other visual stimulus. That system is still running in your brain right now. The particular disgust and alarm you feel when you see a snake, even a photograph of a snake, is not cultural. It is neurological. It is old. So how did your ancestors survive all of this? The answer is not weapons. Not yet, anyway. The answer is each other. Richard Lee's 1963 fieldwork with the Kung San people of southern Africa, one of the most intensively studied hunter-gatherer groups in history, established what has since been confirmed across dozens of similar populations. Survival is a collective project. Small groups, shared sleeping sites, constant communication, watchfulness distributed across many pairs of eyes. No one travels alone. No one sleeps unguarded. The fire, when fire was mastered, which was not as early as most people assume, served not just as warmth or a cooking tool, but as a predator deterrent. Large cats, in particular, avoid fire. A burning camp perimeter was a technology that changed everything. But fire came late. For most of the long, dangerous early chapters of your evolutionary history, the only protection available was the group. The people around you were not just companions. They were your survival system. The anxiety you feel when you are isolated, when you are excluded, when the social fabric around you tears. That anxiety is the same fear your ancestors felt when they found themselves alone in the dark, listening to something move through the grass. It never fully went away. Today you live behind walls. You sleep in locked rooms. The predators that shaped your nervous system are extinct or confined to reserves on the other side of the planet. But your body does not know that. It is still running the same software that kept your ancestors alive on the African savanna, in the forests of Eurasia, on the open plains where the grass hid things that wanted to eat them. The next time your heart rate spikes at a sudden sound, the next time you feel the urge to scan the tree line at dusk, the next time you feel genuinely safer with other people around you, that is not weakness. That is 2 million years of survival intelligence still doing its job. You were never at the top of the food chain. You were the ones who learned to act like it.